Hey guys, this video is going to be a continuation of the other video about how we learned through this article that Africans had stated that they referred Papuan people, yes, Papuan people, the people of Papua New Guinea, as indigenous Filipinos. So when we were Googling the Aita, right? We found right Aita tribe, right? When you type look when you type Aita people, this tribe, right? The Philippines, right? You go here and you find this article, but you realize these are not really these are not really Aita. These are Aita. They have like a mixture of some type of Hamitic, Canaanite, right? These people, they don't have that Canaanite mixture, I think. You don't really see the Canaanite, you just see Negro, right? So I'm suspecting, could they be could they be another tribe of Negrito? But then I realized they were Papuans, right? Because when you do the Google lens, right? What's that Google lens? When you do Google lens, it shows that they are it says that this image shows indigenous people in a remote setting, likely in Papua New Guinea or Philippines, right? But these are Papua New Guineans. So either either these are Papuans mistakenly as Filipinos, or they are actually Filipinos. It's just the modern world is calling them, Papuans because they look, more Papuan or Negro, right? They're Negrito. They're Negro too. They just have a more Canaanite Hamitic mixture more than they do, right? So, I'm just gonna read the article, right? These native Africans were the original inhabitants of the Philippines, these Papuans, right? The Aita or Agda people are the indigenous black-skinned people who inhabit the remote and mountainous regions of the Luzon, Philippines. Remember, they didn't say Negrito, they said black skin. So, the Aita are under a bracket of Austronesians group in Southeast Asia, Oceania, and East Africa that speak languages belonging to the Austronesian language family. So they just said that the Aita are of a bracket. They're of a lineage of Austronesians, Oceanians, and East Africans. So that means many East Africans come from Southeast Asia, because these groups are already in Southeast Asia. Oceania is close to Indonesia. It's on the right side of Indonesia. East Africa, right? So if you're East African watching this, I've already showed that the Luo people come from Kenya and Japan. So I'm just saying they're even your own people saying it too, right? Now they're showing a different image, right? Aita children Pinterest. The Aitas are considered to be the Negritos, a name given to them by Spanish conquerors. They have dark brown to extremely dark brown skin, kinky and curly hair, which ranges in dark brown to blonde, small noses, dark brown eyes, and possess short height because of the Canaanite mixture, I believe, another mixture, right? They are also called Pugat. Pugat in a local term which translates to goblin or forest spirit. History due to internal strife within the tribe, disorganization, and a weak mode of fighting off enemies. Some Aita were sold into slavery, Borneo, and China during the 1500s, as documented by Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, a Spanish navigator and governor general. The Aita people, Jacob Mintz. Their current way of life, due to deforestation, illegal logging, mining, and slash and burn farming, the number of natives have dwindled down to the thousands. Part of the Most High's curse, right, of Israel, right? How they claim to the region is widely speculated. It is believed that the Aita traveled to their current location from Asian mainland using land bridges. The Aita have remains resistant to change and were not deeply affected by Spanish rule in the Philippines due to them remaining in the mountains. Attempts to migrate them to reservations were quickly quelled. Like other nomadic African tribes, now look, now they're trying to call them African, right? They just, right? The Aita are adept at using bows and arrows. They have been documented as being excellent warriors who can attack field workers or travelers that wander into their territory. They use sticks covered with palm of banana leaves to construct a transitionary shelter. Modernized Aitas have ventured out of the mountainous regions into villages and areas free of mountains such as the Pamagana and Tarlac. Contemporary Aita tribe members use bamboo and kangun grass to build their homes. The Aita speak Mag-Indi, Mag-Ansi, Abelan, Abala, and Maravelino. They also are known to adapt the language of their neighbors. Aita man with body scarification. How much do you know about the Philippines? Composite. Appearance and body augmentation. The Aita intentionally wound themselves on their backs, arms, breasts, legs, hands, calves, and abdomens to form scars. Do not make any flesh of the dead or blah blah, right? In turn, the wounds are distributed with fire and lined to produce pronounced scars as told by Trip Memory Lane. Additionally, the Dumagat, a sub-tribe of the Aita, disfigure their teeth by using a fowl, then add black dye to it or reptile worship. Skills. Aita women are known for being skilled herbalists and are sought to contract traditional medicines. Right, we're going to read the rest of that. Get down here. Here's the important part. Music. The Aita use guns, a set of vertically suspended gungs that feature knobbed gungs to produce melodies. Now look, we don't really gotta read this part, but as you notice, they don't put. Okay, the Aita people trip down memory lane. This is the sub. Right, this is the sub type category for this. When you zoom in, these are Papuan people. Papuan. You see how red they are? You see the Negro features? They don't have snub noses. These are Negro noses. They have bushy afro hair. No admixture. These are Papuans. Now, could they still be Filipino? Yes. They're Negros. There's an island in Philippines called Negro Islands, right? We go to it right now. Right? We go to it right now. There it is. In the Philippines. Negros Island. You see it? Right there. It's just they call the inhabitants Negrito, which means little Negro. But remember, there's no difference between Negrito and Negro. They're both the same. Just one is shorter. One has Hamitic Canaanite mixture. The other one doesn't, like them, right? Now, the question is, are they calling them Filipino because they made a mistake, or are they calling them Filipino because the original Filipinos come from Negros Island, right? Negros Island of Philippines, right? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. One of the reasons why they call them, one of the reasons why they call them Filipino is because they're red. I'm gonna say this again. One of the main reasons why they're calling these people right here Filipino is because they are red, not because they not just because they might be from the Negros Island, but they're red. For some reason, when they're talking about Aita people, they make sure not to call them African. They call them Aita. You clearly see there's people in Africa with the same hair texture, but they're not going to call them African because they're red. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like that's one reason why they're red. And they have no trace to Africa. That's why. Now, let's get to some deeper reasons. Alright, if you made it this far. So, we get back to the music. The Aitas use gungs, a set of vertically suspended gungs that feature knob gungs to produce melodies. Now, that would be this right. I guess I'm right. Now, when I saw the word Agung, I thought of like Hindu. I thought of Hinduism, sort of. So then when you search for the word Agung, it goes back to Indonesia. There's a mountain in Indonesia called Mount Agung, right? Mount Agung in Bali, Indonesia, right? Remember, these people are indigenous to Indonesia, right? You type indigenous people to Indonesia. It's going to say multiple groups. It's going to say indigenous Papuans like the Dani, Asmat, the Dayak, a Hamitic group, Mentawai, another Hamitic group, and Bodai Orang Rimba, another Hamitic group, right? So Papuans indigenous to Indonesia, right? Now you might think, so that means they're near Mount Agung. Is the Dani tribe of Indonesia near Mount Agung? And of course they're gonna say no. The resides in the Balam Valley, right? They'll say the other tribes are. But here's the thing though. Then you ask Aita Agung versus Indonesia Agung. Aita Agung, right? Oh, they're speaking a different language. We know how to get through that. Just press translate. Where is it? Aita Agung is most likely a typo or mishearing for the traditional Philippine gong instrument called the agong, which is played by several tribes there, including the indigenous Aita people. This term is completely different from Indonesia Agong, which referred to the Indonesian IT technology company or the eruption of Agong in Bali. Right? Now we're going to type Papua tribe Agong. Right? So now it's gonna say nothing. However, if the Aita call one of their instruments Agung, and there's a mountain in Indonesia called Mount Agung, and there's indigenous Papuas, Negros that live in Indonesia, you don't think they understand what Agung means too? You get what I'm saying? And then watch this. Hold a second. Did any Papua tribes come from Negros Island of Philippines? Now the robot says, right? Yes, Negros Island is home to several indigenous culture. It didn't understand what I was saying. So we're gonna type that. No, it is the other way around. Tribes did not migrate from the Philippines to Papua. Instead, the Aboriginal people of Philippines and Papua New Guinea share a deep, ancient common ancestry. The original inhabitants of Negros Island in the Philippines are the Ati, a Negrito tribe, and anthropological history highlights the key points about their origins. Right? The Ati people and Negros are descendants of the first Sudaland people who migrated from the Asian mainland via ancient land bridges, right? So, Sudaland, Malaysia, right? And Malaysia's not that far from Indonesia. And then also, there's indigenous Papuas in Malaysia too. But genetically, they are an ancient sister group to Papuans and Australian Aboriginals. Both groups descend from a single ancient migration out of Africa into the Pacific region. No migration from Papua New Guinea. There's no historical groups that migrated from Papua New Guinea to settle in Negros Island. So they're saying they're not from Negros Island. However, right? Here's the main thing you gotta look at. They said that the Aboriginal peoples of Philippines and Papua New Guinea share a deep, ancient common ancestry. Right? Remember that. So, now, I want to show you this. Remember, we all know from my studies and Lex Will studies that Negros Island is in Philippines, right? But here's the thing. There's another, yes, there is another Negros Island that Spanish explorers saw. And I'm going to show you where they saw that. What did Spanish explorers seen on Negros Island? Right? When Spanish explorers first arrived at the Bugos in April 1565, they named it Negros after dark-skinned, short, indigenous people who inhabited its dense hinterlands. The Negros, nomadic, dark-skinned indigenous people, lived in the forested interior. Fair-skinned natives of Malay ancestry lived in the coastal settlements who were famous for their heavily tattooed bodies, leading the Spanish people to call the region Isles de los Pintados, or Islands of the Painted People, right? So when the Spanish came into Negros Philippines, they saw Negroes. Remember, they're saying Negros, and then I think the modern term is Negrito. Did Spanish explorers say they saw Negritos or Negros on Negros Island? So remember, read this. It says from the text, Spanish explorers and chroniclers reported seeing dark-skinned indigenous people on the island, and named it Negro. So they didn't say Negrito. They said they saw dark-skinned people, Negros, which is a Spanish word for blacks. Now, I just told you there's another Negros Island. We just talked about Philippines. Let's get to the next one. Is there another Negros Island besides the one in Philippines? Yes. Right? Now, this now is going to USA. Is there another Negros Island in Southeast Asia? Okay, it keeps saying Philippines. Alright. What is the other Negros Island in the Southeast Asia besides Philippines area? Bing! Wait. Bing! Wait. They didn't show it. I'm gonna still do this one too, but I just want to know what etymology. Let's just show it. This is new to the video. What does this mean? Okay, we can leave that alone. All right, so it's not going to tell you here, but it said it down here. Let's go here. Negros. The article is about the island in Philippines. For the island in Papua New Guinea, see Los Negros. Bingo. Yep, if you made this far, there is a Los Negros. A Los Negros island in Papua New Guinea. Los Negros Island is the third largest of the Admiralty Islands, which is an archipelago group of 40 islands in the Bismarck Archipelago to the north of New Guinea in the South Pacific Ocean. Right? It is significant because it contains the main airport of Manus Province on its eastern coastline at Momote, It is connected to Lorejo, right? The capital province on Manus Island, right? So history. Let's get to the history. Los Negros was formerly a Japanese base during World War II and was heavily assaulted on February 29, 1994 by Allied forces during the Battle of Los Negros, which was the spearhead for the Admiralty campaign. Alright, now we're going to type Los Negros Island, and now we're going to type Manus Island. That's the, alright. Alright, so we're going to type map. We go to the map. Here's the map. Oh wait, it's not showing. I'm trying to get to a map. It's acting slow for some reason. There it is. That's the map I was looking for. Yep. So that's the map. That's Manus, and then Los Negros. Oh, that's Manus right there, and then Los Negros. Let's find the etymology. All right, so we're going etymology. Well, actually, let me show you the map of Manus Island next to Indonesia. Or my bad, Philippines. If I can get a good map. Oh, second guys. Dang, bro, I've had a good map earlier. Alright, there it is. Here's the map. Well, it's actually not, but there goes Indonesia right there. Philippines is up here. Manus Island and Los Negros over here. You see how far it is? I mean, close it is to Indonesia and Malaysia, right? I'm trying to find a photo. But they tripping today. Oh, there it is. Yep. There we go. There we go. I think we on the money now. There it is. So you see this map? You already know Negros Island is right there where my mouse is, right? That's where Negros... This is where Negros Island is. Manu is down here. Right? Manus Island is down here. Next to Manus Island, Los Negros should be up here. So Los Negros is right there. So you see how close they take a boat from Philippines to Manus? But remember, when the explorers came to Indonesia, they saw Negros too. So I'm saying, like, these islands are named after European explorers discovering, right? So now we're gonna type Los Negros Island people. Now we go to images. Who does it show? Doesn't show anybody really, because it's a military base. It's still indigenous people there. They're just not gonna show it. But it's a military base right now. But when you type Manu tribe, because Manu Islands, right, and you type people, guess who it show you? Negros. Remember, when you type Los Negros Island map, it's next to Manu Island. Like, it's literally next to Manu Island. See this map? See that map? Manu's Island and Los Negros is right here. So they're not gonna show us who's on the Los Negros, but you see who's on the Manus. If the Manus Island shows Negros, indigenous Negros, right? Look at them. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of stuff they're hiding, man. Right? Look at that Negro. Uh-oh. Nope. Can't run the video. I don't pass music. Negro. Right? This might be an Israelite. I don't know. But now, what's weird about the Manu people? Manu, that's it reminds they could be related to the Aita. They could be another branch of Benjamin. But that wouldn't make sense because Benjamin escaped to the cages. The caves. Sorry. But when you try to type the island next to the Manu Island people, it won't show you. It won't show you the people. Now there's people on there. They just won't show you. They just so. Yeah. We could try to go to some websites to find. But they're not going to show you who's on the island. It's because it's a U.S. military base now. Now, let's look at the etymology of the Los Negros Island. Etymology meaning. Los Negros Island gets its name directly from what? What? Spanish explorers. The name translates to the blacks in Spanish, referencing the dark-skinned indigenous Melanesian inhabitants they encounter in the region. Right? And they're trying to make sure, they're trying to make sure they differentiate from the one in the Philippines. To ensure clarity, if you're referring to the much larger Negros Island in the Philippines, the etymology are being different. Spanish origin. The name was named by a Negro Spanish colony in 1565. It also translates to black, specifically named after dark-skinned indigenous Negrito Ata people of Spanish observed living there. Right? So look, we're going to go back to the map. So when the Spanish came and colonized and, did what they did, right? The places that they thought weren't as important, they said, oh, let's name this Negro Island, right? Negros Island, Philippines. Came down here. I don't think the Spanish colonized Indonesia, but they saw them there too. But then when they came down here, they saw more Negroes. And they named these Negros too. So you get what I'm saying? They didn't call them Negrito when they came here. They called them black Negros, just like here. So Spanish. So what I'm trying to tell you that and it's not just the Spanish. Let's see who colonized Indonesia. I don't think Indonesia got colonized. Let me check though. Gotta keep that map. Who colonized Indonesia? The Dutch, right? The Dutch. So that's kind of weird though. So if the Dutch colonized Indonesia, and they didn't call, because look, they saw. I'm pretty sure they saw. It's like 5 million Negroes in Malaysia. There's like 2 million Negroes in the islands of Indonesia, and then there's like a bunch of them in the mountains, and then you got Papua New Guinea. So you're telling me the Spanish, when they went around Philippines and Manu's Island and the Los Negros Island, right? They saw Negroes, but the Dutch didn't. Come on now. Something's not adding up. And we know the Dutch is the Black Dutch, right? So, yeah. Now I want to look at this Manu etymology right quick. I already seen it, but I want to show you Manu Island etymology. The name Manus originate from the indigenous ethnonym used for the Titan language-speaking coastal and reef-dwelling people of the region. Right. So, we'll do name. So, the name Manus comes from traditional endonym of the right. We read that speaking fishing, trading people. The etymology, indigenous origin. The term Manus differentiates this maritime seafaring group from inland agricultural groups. The name widely adopted in anthropological literature, right? So now we're gonna go to Gemini. Well, yeah. Now we're gonna type Manus Island biblical etymology. Let's see what it says. Right? Biblical relation. Okay, we'll just put Manus etymology. Right, so Manus, right, for hand entered directly feels like anatomy and law, referring to the historical legal power such as the husband's control over his wife. The Latin manus stems from the Proto-Indo-European root meaning hand. This root is the origin of many common English words related to hands, such as manual, manicure, and manufacture. However, there was another thing that I saw on my phone. It's not showing it right now. But Manus Island etymology. It's not showing on the screen right now. I don't know why. Name etymology. Like it's not showing. Oh, there it is. Okay. The indigenous Austronesian origin. In local Austronesian dialects, particularly the Titan language spoken by the coastal dwellers, Manus or Moanis originally designated a specific ethnic subgroup of people known for fishing, trading, and building their homes on stilts over the sea. Over time, outsiders began applying the term to the entire island and province. Right. So, we see the word Moanis. Now, when I think of Moanis, I think of the Disney character Moana. You know, I just wonder if this has a connection. You know? So, because we know there's a, alright, versus Moana. So Moana's a film, right? And then in Pacific Island cultures, these two terms hold distinct meanings. Moana, a Polynesian word that translates to ocean, sea, or deep water in Disney films. Manu, a traditional Polynesian bomb dropped into the water. The exploding popularity of the traditional jump has led to the Manu World Champs, right? So, and then also when you hear the word Manu, it sounds like the word man. And remember, when you're seeing the word man, it's it's because they're red. They're red. That's why. Most if the tribes are not African, I mean, if they're not very dark, they're usually gonna call themselves man or something like that, or original, because they're red. Because the original man was what? Red. You know, so which makes sense. Even Moana, they make her look red. Polynesians are not that like. Let me show you Moana. Look, she's red. Polynesian people. I know that they could have made her darker, but Polynesian people don't get this dark unless they mix with a Fijian, right? So, you know. Now and then another theory. See the word Manus, it could be referring to one of the sons of one of the sons of Samson, Manoah. Moana, Manoah, because they are seafaring people. This could be referring to the the Manoah people, descendants of the tribe of Dan. That's so it could be of that. It could be Dan. But I don't know. I might be wrong, but so. But yeah. That's it, right? There's an island. There's another island called Los Negros in Papua New Guinea. Yep, Los Negros. So the Spanish call the area in Philippines Negros, and they call the area near out of Papua Los Negros. So yeah, they both were called by Spanish. So Spanish saw Negros in the entire Southeast Asia.